Okay, so I didn't get my sky done while we were gone. I did draw this in and I decided I wanted to show it to you before I went and got it wet. So here's my barn. And I drew in a few lines for the grass and the bushes and the edge of the thing. And then I just drew this little spike for the tree. Can you even see it? There you go. That's what I've drawn in so far. So now I need to run and get my paper wet. So I'm gonna go do that and come right back, and then I'm gonna start on my sky. So I already have my yellow ochre and my blue on my palette. And so I'm just trusting you guys are following along the best you can. Let me see if somebody else has tried to come in. Yeah, we don't have Jack back yet. So I'm gonna pop over to my sink and get this wet. I'll be right back. I got water on my floor. Don't tell my mom. Here we go. Alrighty, so we all kind of know the drill on the sky, right? Remember how to do that? I'm gonna make sure my videos are going. Oh, that's fine. That is weird. Make sure my other video. Yep, it's going. I'm gonna do like we did before, water, yellow, ochre. I've got it way too thick. So I'm gonna pull this in. Kind of needs to be pretty watery, remember? And this is what we call the 30-second sky or 60-second sky. It's very fast. And just put some yellow. I'm gonna have to add a little more water, I think. There's a bit of weirdness. Something was stuck to my brush. I am also gonna run some of this ochre down through here to give a bit of warmth to that part. And then now, see, I'm not putting a ton. This isn't as big of a sky. And it's kinda it. On the yellow, I don't want this weird line here. So I'm gonna run across with that. Just want some warmth down here so that when I add those other colors, it just has that nice golden warm bit underneath, okay? So there's that. Rinse my brush because I don't want a green sky. I definitely want a blue sky. I have got so many colors on my palette. I'm gonna take this plastic lid that I showed you guys before. I'm gonna clean it off a little bit. And I'm gonna use it to put my blue in because I've got way too much paint on this plate and it's gonna end up giving me like red or purple. Well, purple might not look bad in the sky, or some of the browns, and I don't want that to happen. So I've got just this real watery blue wash, and now I'll come in and just start adding in some more bits of sky. I do have some straight blue over here, so if I want a little bit darker in some areas, I can do that. So basically, putting blue where they're kind of in between the yellow. It can go past that barn because we're going to do the barn red. If we had done a white barn, you could have used the masking fluid that I told you exists. We're not using it, but it's like, it almost looks like the whiteout that you get in a little bottle and you paint it on. It's about that size. Sometimes it comes with a pointy tip so you can literally draw things on. And it's just this white masking fluid, and it's a little bit rubbery when it dries, so you can like get it off. And then you paint over it, and then you just like get it off. when it's completely dry, and then the white paper shows underneath, and you can either put another color on or it's just stayed white. So it's pretty cool stuff. A lot of watercolor artists use it a lot. Alrighty, I think that's my sky. I kind of think I'd like a little bit darker blue in some areas, and I'm out on my palette, so I'm going to add a little on the side of my plate and just add a little bit of dark blue just because I think the sky needs more drama. Like maybe a, there. And maybe a little bit behind the barn. See, I don't want like drops of blue. I want it to look, you know, natural. So, maybe some dark up in this corner. Okay. We also don't have use of my hairdryer, but I'm assuming you guys have hairdryers at your house. So if you're like, I really want to move on and get more done, and you want to dry it, you can run get a hairdryer and do that. So there's my sky. Now some of this I'm not thrilled with. It's kind of running up in here, and I'm not sure I like that. Just pull a little water through it, kind of pull it up. I don't want it to be like green over here. I don't want like drops, so I'm gonna run this across. I think that's kind of where I want it. I like that. This is already getting dry down here, which is good because the next thing we're gonna do is put in some grass. So dry off that brush, and I'm gonna wipe off this. How are you guys doing? Got any questions? Oh, am I not letting her in? Huh. Ellie can't, is she using the same, because it's not even giving me like an invitation, you know, a notice to let her in. Can you, she can use the same link for the first half. Has she tried that? Yeah, tell her that. You're communicating with her? Because I have both phones tied up, so I can't really communicate with her. So yeah, communicate with her and see if she can, it's the same exact link, we just use it twice. If it's a Wi-Fi problem at her house, I will be putting the video on. Oh, Jack popped out too. I wonder if his internet is acting crazy. Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out for if she's popped in to admit her and Jack back in. Okay. Are you guys ready for me to go on, or should I wait a few minutes? We were going to work on this next week too, so it's not like we have to finish this week. That's not it at all. The plan all along was to start it this week and finish it next week. Which is good because some of it has to get really good and dry. There's no way we could finish it in one class period and do it well. So, well, the next thing we can do, I'm just going to go ahead and move on since I have a video going. The next thing that I can do is this foreground that looks like a road. That is done in more of a Payne's gray, which I told you my Payne's gray just looks like gray with no blue in it. We want it to have a little bit of that gray blue. So I am going to put a little Payne's gray down, but I'm also going to mix some of my dark Prussian blue with it and get a grayish blue. So I'm going to do that here. See if it's the color I want. Not quite. I think this is blue. Yes. So I'm going to steal some of this over here. It's the bad thing of using leftover paint that's on your palette is you have to figure out what color it is because it's just a dark blob. So what I have here now is I have this dark bluish gray again, kind of like what we used for the boat and the birds. And I am going to get some of that. I want it a little wet, so I'm going to add some more water to it. And get some more of this bluish bit over here and add to it. And so this is that road that's off to the side. It's basically, see if this is dry enough. It is. Whoop, 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 not quite. Oh dear, didn't want to do that. Now I have a weird fingerprint in my sky. Get that like at least wet again. Okay, I'm gonna come down here and I'm just gonna carefully go across and come down, and it's kind of given me the idea that there's a road through here and this is the dirt. That is what that is supposed to look like, or like a hillside or something. I think we're gonna add some trees and grass or some bushes on this side because to me this still seems very, I guess it's supposed to look maybe like a plowed field because there's dirt next to it. So I might add some more streaks later, we'll see. So this is my bluish gray along the one side. And then I'm gonna go into my raw umber that we had before. So if you didn't have any more of a brown, just get some brown. I didn't even rinse my brush, and I'm gonna do the same kind of thing along here, and this is now the brown of the field. Okay, and I'm gonna come up on this side with that. I'm even gonna get some of this raw sienna and run it through there. I want it to look like dirt, like a plowed field. So, and we're gonna put some splatters and things on this later. So for now, I'm just trying to get this, just this background that looks like a farmer has driven through it with his tractor. And I want it kind of dark along there. And it can even bleed up into here because this is where we're gonna have bushes. And it's not bad to have some dark back up behind there. So that's what we're gonna do there. And then the next thing I could do, if my sky is dry enough, where my tree is, but it still looks too wet. So I'm gonna have to wait on my tree a little bit. However, that's just kind of where we're at now. Now that's gotta dry. This is the watching paint dry class. Okay. Still kind of feel like it wouldn't be bad if that was darker, or maybe I just need some fresh burnt sienna. I was using leftover paint, so you guys can, you don't have to just use what's left over. Put on your palette what you think you need. I'm gonna put a little more, oh yeah, I like that redness in there. It's not really red, it's burnt sienna, but it's got that nice rusty orange. And that gives you that feeling of dirt. This is getting fuzzy up into there, but that's gonna be grass, and that is not a problem. That's just gonna be covered up with green later. So this is an instance where that running together isn't an issue. And you know, I don't know about you guys, the more I look at this painting, this blue-gray bit over here confuses me. So I'm gonna do the whole, I'm just gonna add more brown. So that's up to you guys on your painting, but that confuses me as to what that is. So I'm just gonna decide that this is all plowed dirt through here. And then I'm gonna, next week, we will add like some bits of furrows, and maybe we'll even put some green plants coming up because it just looks boring to me. I don't know about you guys. I don't like that. So, good example of change it if you don't like it. Okay? If you want more green coming down, do it. It's your painting. It's just a suggestion. Okay? So, I'm gonna turn it to, I like that blue-gray underneath though. I think it gives it a nice feel. And I'm gonna put, I like these darker streaks. It kind of makes me feel like it's the furrows of the field. And those aren't always perfectly straight. So they need to be somewhat parallel, but they don't have to be like absolutely straight. So I'm just using a mixture of the burnt sienna and the raw umber and running that across there, and I am much more happy with that. I feel like it's gonna look like it's a field now, and then we can add little tufts of green coming up in the rows maybe. I'm much happier with that looking at it on my screen. That's what's helping me with this, is seeing it on my screen. So remember how often we've said take a picture of your work and look at it on a photo? That does help quite a bit. So that's gonna have to dry. What I wanna do next, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to, is I'm gonna need a little more burnt sienna. I keep using it up, I'm not putting enough on my thing. So I have the burnt sienna and the raw umber again. And the next step, and I know you might feel like I'm rushing, and I don't wanna rush you. Remember I said there's a video and you guys can stop, start, watch it again to work on your thing. So don't worry about rushing through. Obviously I'm more experienced and I'm more confident with just like throwing paint down. It's okay if it takes you all longer. And if you're not on the same step I'm on. I'm gonna take a little bit of the raw umber and the burnt sienna, and I'm gonna go over here where I kind of drew in that little tree trunk. It's not quite dry enough way up in my sky for me to get too many branches going, but I'm at least gonna start putting this tree trunk in. See how it wants to run a bit? That's okay, because there's gonna be a bunch of leaves up there. So the bottom part, I don't have to go all the way down because there's gonna be grass and stuff in there. The rest of it, I am now going to rinse, dry my brush really good. And in order to make this tree trunk look rounded, I'm now gonna take it's just a dried off brush, and I'm gonna run it down one side to pick up paint. And I'm gonna do that a few times until I've created a highlight on one side of that tree. See how it's kind of coming out of there? And when I have a highlight, then it's gonna look more round. And then I could mix a little dark blue or gray or black with that brown and make a darker brown. I've actually got a little purple over here on the side I mixed with my brown to make a dark, dark, dark brown. And I am going to run, I'm trying to keep my cord out of the way. I'm just gonna run a little tiny streak down one side of my tree. Is this when Bob Ross would say happy little trees? If I keep growing my hair out, I'm gonna look like Bob Ross, huh? It's gonna be all fluffed out. We're gonna do a red barn unless you really wanna do a white barn, but the problem with a white barn is if you see my barn has blue in it now, it's gonna be really tough to make it white. So I think I was just planning on doing a red barn, and I think a red barn would be prettier because it's a nice splash of color. So yeah, I think a red barn's gonna be better. So I just I darkened up some of that brown with a little bit of purple. That sounds crazy. You could use a little red to darken it, a little green, whatever you got on hand, a little dark blue. And I just ran a tiny little streak down the side of this tree. And I'm still not sure that my background is quite dry enough for me to start adding branches. Because if it's wet, it's gonna bleed, and I'm gonna have weird brown running through my sky. But here's a few I can add in. Is this dry enough? This is still a tiny bit damp. It has to be somewhat wet. A lot of this is gonna get hidden by green. So yeah, that's letting me do that without causing too many problems. And I know it's too wet over here though, where I kind of doctored up that sky. So I definitely am not gonna put any over there right now. But I could put some branches in. And then later we'll put the green on top, probably next week. So I'm just kind of running a few branches in. And it's kind of a crazy looking tree, isn't it? Just using the thin little tip of my brush. They've got a branch showing down there too. Seems like it would be thicker here and there. That should do it. That should do it. And then got all that. I still have this really wet spot. You guys probably don't have that. I messed up by touching it, and that's why I ended up with that weird spot over there. And I'm still not, because I added more water. It's looking weird to me still. So I'm gonna add a little more of my sky blue. I gotta stay away from the brown of that tree, and I'm gonna try to make this spot look like it's supposed to be there. Okay, it's just not looking right because I took that color out. There. We'll see. I'm still not sure that's gonna work. Not that happy with that. See how there's like a weird spot where that got taken out, and now I have a weird splotch? I may have to put a really big bush back there. It doesn't work. Let's see how, I'm gonna put it more dark blue here and see if that's gonna be enough to fix it. We'll know when it dries. If it doesn't dry the way I want, well then, you know, there might be some more trees on that side. Okay, but better for me to make mistakes and show you what I do to fix them than for you guys to be frustrated, right? Okay. I'm gonna see, has anybody else tried? So Jack and Ellie have just not been able to get back. Okay, so how are we doing with all of this?